Hey everybody, it's James Freeman. This is the story of how 4 people were charged with conspiracy to commit organized crime without conspiring, being organized, or committing a crime. On February 4th, 2022, HBO Matt went to the home of Melanie McCrory and Brandon White in Livingston, Texas, to get ready for a protest in Corrigan, Texas, the following day. While Matt was walking from his car to the home, he was legally carrying a silenced pistol in a holster on his hip. A neighbor saw it and called 911, reporting a guy with a gun. Open records requests to the Livingston Police Department for that phone call have been denied. Rather than telling the caller that these things are legal in the United States, multiple Livingston police officers responded to the home. As should always be done, as soon as the police arrived, cameras came out to record the interaction. The police wanted Matt to show ID and paperwork for the legal firearm, but Matt was not legally obligated to show or give them anything, and he didn't. The officers go and talk to a detective for about 10 or 15 minutes, after which a detective returns to the door and apologizes for the officers trying to demand ID and paperwork that they have no legal or lawful authority to demand. The police leave and Matt and his friends carry on about their day. Fast forward to a few hours later, Matt, Melanie, and Brandon meet up with Corners News and they go out to Cop Watch, which is where you go out, look for police calls, and record police in their official capacity. This is a practice that's become increasingly more popular around the United States as everyday people have begun to realize that police don't have the integrity that they used to think they did. The police constantly argue that we don't need to do this because they have their own body cameras recording all of their actions. But due to the fact that many police have zero integrity, they often don't turn on their body cameras, mute their body cameras, or refuse to give the public the footage when it's asked for. In this case in particular, the police have already refused to release this body cam footage, so if it weren't for these guys making their own recording, we wouldn't know what happened on this night. And we would be left with nothing but police testimony that these guys conspired to commit organized crime. I'll leave a link to this full video that I shared just a couple weeks ago, but we'll show you a few clips that show just how ignorant the Livingston police really are.
Why are they acting suspicious? Who are they? And I can stop anybody that's acting suspicious. I want his ID. Texas law says if you're acting suspicious in a suspicious place, I can get your ID. I can ID you, I can stop you, I can find you out what you're doing. So that's what I want to know. What are you doing? Right now you're failing to ID, so I'm about to arrest you for that.
Hey jackass, ever heard of 3802, you dumb fuck?
Hey, so again, give me a
3802. Only must give ID when under arrest.
You're not going to tell me what the law is. I know what the law is.
3802, failure to ID requires an arrest.
Okay, and that's what I'm about to do.
For what?
For being suspicious, for failing to ID.
Failure to ID is a secondary charge.
So, Officer Simmons with the Livingston Police Department during this stop exposes himself as being both ignorant and arrogant. He claims that these are suspicious people in a suspicious place, and therefore Texas state law says he can get ID. Matt corrects him, citing the actual Texas Penal Code 3802 that states that a person only has to ID when lawfully arrested. So even if ignorant Simmons were to arrest somebody for failure to ID, they still wouldn't be obligated to ID because the arrest would be unlawful, and the statute specifically states that a person must be lawfully arrested to be required to ID. Furthermore, Officer Simmons never states any crime or criminal activity that he suspects these people of, just that recording the police in general is suspicious.
You're not going to tell me what the law is. I know what the law is.
The detention lasts about 15 minutes, during which time the backup officer talks to Officer Simmons at the back of the car, informing Officer Simmons that the detention is illegal. He informs Officer Simmons that the guys in the car do know the law better than him, that they know their rights, and that he's in big trouble. He lets him know that the guy in the back seat is Brandon White, known for recording police. Officer Simmons returns to the car and claims that since the officer identified the guy in the back seat, they're now free to go.
Mr. White.
Oh, people are calling and saying.
Which one?
The popular.
Right here?
How you doing, Mr. White?
Did y'all get some phone calls?
No.
The reason
no.
you're shining
okay.
light in my eyes, it's kind of bright.
Yes, sir. That's the way I can see through this.
I just remember stuff.
Oh.
And obviously, he
well, now I know who you are. So I will be happy to let you go.
the reason why he needs to identify you is because he doesn't know who you are. I know who Mr. White is.
And you could be a team radioing to another team to commit a crime.
A few days later, the Livingston Police Department decided to retaliate against these individuals for recording them. All 4 of the individuals in the car were charged with conspiracy to commit organized crime and slapped with $100,000 bonds. Now, first I'm going to go over the only crime that's actually alleged in these warrants. And then we'll go over how most of the narrative in the warrants talks about how Officer Simmons had his feelings and his ego hurt. The only crime that's alleged is Texas Penal Code 42.061, silent or abusive calls to 911. A person commits this offense when they call 911 reporting an emergency when they know that there is no emergency. Now, I have heard of people previously, such as News Now Patrick and News Now Houston, either calling the cops on themselves or asking other people to call the cops on them in order to get a police interaction and a YouTube video. If that was what happened here, I wanted to know so that I could tell all of you that that is what happened. But the Livingston police refused to release the phone calls, and they didn't even actually claim that any of these people made the calls, but that neighbors made them. It appears that the actual allegation is that HBO Matt knew that by legally carrying a firearm, somebody would call 911. The affidavit claims that Sergeant Bogany responded to the call of a man with a gun, and that the individuals that he spoke to refused to identify themselves and refused to give him paperwork in regards to the handgun. But none of this information is relevant, as nobody was legally obligated to identify themselves or provide any paperwork. Therefore, it's an arrest affidavit with a story that includes no crimes. The arrest affidavit quite literally says that when police responded to a call of someone exercising their Second Amendment right, the defendants exercised their First Amendment right to record police while exercising their Fourth Amendment right to be secure in their person, papers, and effects. In other words, these people exercised multiple constitutionally protected rights simultaneously, and the Livingston Police Department has super hurt feelings about that. But the probable cause affidavit referring to the incident later that evening with Officer Simmons is even better. It doesn't even pretend to state a crime at all, but repeatedly states that Officer Simmons had very hurt feelings about the incident. It claims that a detective swore upon his oath that his agency investigated the offense of engaging in organized criminal activity which occurred at 308 West Church Street, Livingston, Polk County, Texas. I'm not going to read the affidavit word for word. If you want to, you can pause and read it yourself. Also note that while the affidavit does not claim any criminal activity, it does include both some had lies. to sell property.
But rather
to pay
than pointing out those lies
$10,000
here
for their
now,
bonds,
we will wait
which
until the
they'll never
officers
get back,
swear
even
to
after
these
the
lies
charges
under
are
oath in
dismissed.
deposition.
The affidavit states that Officer Simmons witnessed a vehicle following him around with individuals in the car recording him. The affidavit claims that Officer Simmons was super scared that people were watching him in his official capacity. The affidavit claims that Officer Simmons ran the license plate on the vehicle and the registration came back to Laredo, Texas, making him even more suspicious. After all, who registers a blue four-door sedan in Laredo, Texas? Due to the fact that there were individuals in a blue four-door sedan registered in Laredo, Texas, recording police, Officer Simmons did a stop on the vehicle. Affiant would show the driver and all the occupants in the vehicle ignored Officer Simmons' request for their identification as a result of their suspicious behavior. Affiant would show that the front seat white male passenger was video recording with his cell phone and being verbally rude to Mr. Simmons while conducting his investigation.
Right now you're failing to ID, so I'm about to arrest you for that.
Hey, jackass, ever heard of 3802, you dumb fuck?
Affiant would show the white male sitting in the back seat behind the driver was positively identified and known as Brandon Michael White based on past law enforcement encounters for calls relating to his cell phone recordings and harassment of law enforcement. Now, to be clear, what they're claiming to be harassment was simply recording police in their official capacity. So the entire arrest affidavit claims that there's 4 individuals in a blue four-door sedan registered in Laredo, Texas, recording police and then asserting their rights when they're stopped and harassed by police. The affidavit does also state that HBO Matt hurt Officer Simmons' feelings.
Hey, jackass, ever heard of 3802, you dumb fuck?
Now, please note that the only crime they're charged with in this incident is organized crime. It's missing the crime part of the organized crime. But hold on, there's more. Under the Texas Penal Code 7102, engaging in organized criminal activity, not only does there have to be a crime, but there must be a specific type of crime. The Penal Code specifically lists all of the crimes that can be used to charge organized crime. These include mostly heinous crimes such as murder, capital murder, arson, aggravated robbery, and more. So in the second incident, they don't even allege that any crime whatsoever was committed. And in the first incident, the only crime even alleged is a false 911 call, which is not one of the crimes listed in the Penal Code 7102. And again, it doesn't appear that they're alleging that any of these people made a false 911 call, but that Matt would know that open carrying a firearm would cause a 911 call. Melanie was picked up at her home on February 8th. Brandon White was picked up in the same location a few hours later. HBO Matt and Corners News turned themselves in a few days later in a neighboring county to avoid the Polk County jail, and both bonded out on a $100,000 bond. As of today, Melanie and Brandon are still both sitting in Polk County jail on $100,000 bonds. Now, while this is a story of conspiracy to commit organized crime, it's the accusers that are committing the organized crime. 18 U.S.C. 241 Conspiracy Against Rights says if two or more persons conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district in free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to them by the Constitution or the laws of the United States, they shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both. And if the act results in death or kidnapping of the individual, then the offender may be imprisoned for any term of years or for life or both, or be sentenced to death. Melanie and Brandon have been picked up and held in Polk County Jail for almost a month in retaliation for exercising their First Amendment right to record the police. In the description and comments below is a list of individuals believed to be involved in this conspiracy against rights, as well as their official contact information. The police could not do this alone. A magistrate had to look at these probable cause affidavits that list no crimes and sign off on the warrants. Is Officer Simmons still with the department?
Yes, he is.
Okay, I was looking at some other stuff here. I was looking at conspiracy to violate rights.
Okay, so any other questions you have, you can speak to a supervisor.
The only thing that I was wondering is that I was reading in there that the punishment for conspiracy to violate rights is death. So is that, do you know what's going on with that, or?
So again, I just told you, you can speak to a supervisor, and I can transfer you to them, but that's as far as this conversation is going to go.
Okay, that seems really suspicious to me.